Welcome to The Real Look. I'm Bruce Hardy.
And I'm Chase Williams.
I'm so excited to introduce this episode's Northern Lights guest, Nick Beveridge, with Keller Williams Realty Coeur d'Alene in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Nick has been in the real estate game for over a decade now, specializing in real estate investments and property improvement for clients across North Idaho, including Kootenai, Shoshone, Bonner, and Boundary counties. Nick now runs the North Idaho REI team of 8 agents alongside his partner, Joe Turner. In 2022, their team closed 97 units with over $38 million in volume. Outside of his day job, Nick co-hosts the Investor Shed podcast, a platform where he interviews other real estate entrepreneurs, both locally and nationally. Please enjoy this conversation with Nick Beveridge. Well, g'day, Nick. Welcome to The Real Look. What we know is we all have a journey, right? We all have a life prior to real estate. So give us a little bit of your story.
So I got my real estate license back in the start of 2011 in the Orlando, Florida area. I was pretty young. I think I was 22 or something at the time. I've been wanting to be in the real estate industry since I was 17, 18. I thought getting a license would be a good way to learn how to do real estate. I was really wrong about that because I've always wanted to be an investor. I bought my first house in 2008 in North Idaho in a rural town, Kellogg, Idaho. It didn't go too well. I didn't cash flow. I didn't really know much. I didn't know how to renovate houses. Didn't know the market was going to crash so severely. Didn't know about cash flow, those kind of things. So I kind of started off just with trial and error. So that first experience buying a property in North Idaho wasn't the best, but I learned a lot. I decided to move to Florida because I saw a lot of houses in the 200s that were down in like the 60s, 80s as far as price points. And I just thought it'd be a great opportunity to go down there and try to be an investor. So I got my real estate license and worked with a lot of real estate investors. It took a few years for me to actually be successful as a real estate agent. Here I am 13 years later. I think I somewhat got things figured out, I think, when it comes to the real estate agent business. Been able to be pretty successful as a real estate investor in the residential space for quite a while. Last couple of years have been pretty rough, but I'm getting through it.
You bought this house in North Idaho, then you moved down to Orlando, Florida, and got some additional experience. And then at some point you moved back to Coeur d'Alene, right?
Yeah. My plan was to rent that house out that I bought, do like a house hack before it was popular. My house hack was losing $400 a month when I moved out of it. It took almost a year just to rent out, so it was vacant for quite a while. When I moved to Florida, right after I left this house vacant with a property manager and no income, I had about $5,000 saved up, moved to Florida, and then I started having seizures. So pretty quickly, I was in a rough spot again. I was in and out of the hospital a lot. Couldn't work or drive. I had to give my car back to the dealership. Didn't have health insurance. So kind of got a rough, interesting start to my real estate agent journey. I didn't have a car when I started. Didn't know the area. Didn't have a database, but I figured it out.
Yeah, well, I mean, tell us about that. So you persevered through a lot of challenges in your career. What changed some of that stuff for you, and where did you really start to first gain traction in the business?
There wasn't like one in particular turning point. I think it was just like a slow go, just based off my development over time, my personal development. Joining the right brokerage right from the start, Keller Williams Realty, really, I think, gave me a leg up. I was able to adopt Gary Keller's systems that he taught. The office that I started at, it was, like I said, early 2011. A lot of agents were getting out of the business. A lot of agents actually left that brokerage I joined. I think there were only 10 people at that office when I started, and nobody was showing up. So I didn't really have anybody training me. I just used Keller Williams Agent Mountain, I think is what it was called at the time. I got to learn about the box system for a CRM. So I used index cards and a box. I had 2 index cards per client, one with the hard data information, the other one with notes, and I would cycle it through based off the month. And I didn't have a car, so I had to bring this box with me on my bike, going back and forth to the office. That was the start. I started pretty primitively using what Keller Williams was teaching, and it just kind of grew from there. I started E-Edge. I don't know if you guys are familiar with E-Edge or if you ever heard of that.
Yep.
It came out soon after I started. I thought it was absolutely amazing. Everybody else thought it was garbage, but I thought it was amazing just because it was better than the box I was using. I learned really early that it was possible in real estate sales to grow a team. And I didn't know that was a possibility when I was getting into the business. Like I said, I got my license to learn more about investing. And I thought real estate agents were just self-employed people that were running real hot until they burnt out. And, Robert Kiyosaki kind of stresses that if you're self-employed, you're a dummy. And I thought it would be a temporary move, but I didn't realize that you can grow a business within the real estate sales industry and grow a team. And when I learned that, I started having that mindset that, okay, so one day I'm going to have a team. And so I was always taking notes in my CRM in the third person, assuming someday some people would see this and I would hand the database off to agents on my team or assistants. So I would always write all my notes. Nick went to go show this person a house. Nick did this. Just try to remain in that mindset that I will have a team one day and I better just start treating it right from the start.
I love that, Nick, because mindset's everything, right? I want to go back, though, because I've got a couple of questions. One is, how do you sell a house on a bike? How do you do that? Because, people will complain that the market isn't giving them what they want today, and yet they're not dealing with the hurdles that you were dealing with when you got into the business.
Well, I'll make a confession. It wasn't a bicycle. It was a chick bike. It was like a Honda Rebel 250. So when I had to give my car back to the dealership because I couldn't make payments, because I couldn't work, I couldn't even take a shower without somebody watching me so I wouldn't fall down. I was having like 4 seizures a day. But when I got on the right medicine and I stopped having seizures, I was able to get my license activated. I couldn't drive for 6 months. It didn't matter because I didn't really have a car. But I had this scooter, this Yamaha Vino 125, little like moped type scooter. I found a guy that traded me on Craigslist that for his wife's bike. So at least I was showing up on a motorcycle. It was a small one, and it rained a lot in Florida. Almost indefinitely every time there'd be a rainstorm whenever I was showing a house, and my clients or buyers, they thought I was an idiot. And I just tried to play it off like, crap, I didn't check the weather. So I had that same excuse that I just didn't check the weather. I thought it'd be a good day for a ride.
Love it.
On your chick bike.
Yeah, my chick bike.
You mentioned, right? So you had all these things against you, including the fact that you were new to the market and didn't have a database there. So how did you go and generate business in a market that you were new to?
I just kind of saw everybody in front of me as an opportunity, especially the real estate agents in my office that were doing well. I can offer my help. I have a lot of time on my hands. And if you have any trash leads you don't want to work, I'd be happy to take them on. So there were a couple of agents in the office that did a lot of REO listings. I would take any Zillow or Trulia leads that came in that they didn't want to respond to. And I said I'd pay them a 25% referral. And I sold 14 homes my first year. Obviously, it doesn't sound like a lot, but at the time, most agents in my office weren't selling much at all. A lot of the newer people I started with, 2 or 3 other newer people that started with me at the same time that went through the classes, started at that brokerage, they didn't sell anything in their first year. But I sold 14, and I did it without a database. I did it without knowing the area, did it without any experience. It was just pure hustle. I didn't have an option. I had to try to bring in some income, and I had to just do what I was told. I would just work these trash leads, try to convert them any way I knew how. And then eventually those trash leads turned into deals. And eventually those turned into referrals. And then I started becoming known around the office as somebody who would take your trash leads and convert them. So there were probably 6 or 8 different agents in the office sending me leads regularly, just people they didn't want to follow up with. And the price points weren't that attractive. My average selling price was like $70,000. Mm-hmm. And my average commission after splits and all that was like $700. So my first year sold 14 properties, but I only made like $13,000. But I learned so much, and I learned a lot about converting and just getting in the habit of the system of a lead comes in, you got to respond to it right away. I would have lenders help me with the lead generation as well, because at the time, 9 out of 10 leads didn't qualify for a loan. So part of my system was I would have a good conversation with somebody. Then I would say, are you planning on paying cash or financing? If they're financing, okay, great. Do you have a lender, or No, I don't. Okay, great. I'm going to have someone give you a call. I would have never asked really permission. I would just push things along. What I found over time was people really actually like to be pushed, and people like when you take control and just say what's going to happen next. I would try to leverage, even at that point in my career, my sales team was mortgage officers. Mm-hmm. And I saw everybody around me as some sort of a team person that can help me. I delegated a lot of my lead generation to mortgage people and just had them follow up. I don't know, does that make sense? Does anybody even do that these days?
Yeah. What I love about that part of the story, Nick, is when you operate like a professional and you give someone true guidance on what should happen next, they actually appreciate that. It's not pushy by any stretch of the imagination, because the consumer or the layman is hoping that they get connected with someone who knows the process better than they do. That's all you did. But you did that with other people, right? Leverage for you. And obviously it worked. So I'm curious about, you've made this name for yourself and you have this niche and this expertise around the investment world in real estate. You guys help a lot of clients with buying investment property. You mentioned the first house you bought in Kellogg, but where was that kind of interest born for you? And then how have you weaved that into your business?
I have so many regrets. I wish I was buying real estate back when I first got my license in Florida, when your average house, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a pool, was like 80 grand. I just didn't know what I was doing at the time. I didn't know how to buy properties creatively. I didn't know about hard money. There was so much I didn't know, but I just learned over time. And I went to a lot of real estate seminars. Unfortunately, I didn't buy anything in Florida. I worked there for 2 years. I moved back to my home, North Idaho, where I was raised. I took a few months to get my license, transferred over. In the meantime, I worked at a car dealership so I can save money for. What I wanted to do was actually have some sort of savings before I got into real estate again or started over again in a new market. And it was probably one of the worst things I did because I built up this 6-month cushion, and then it took me 6 months to sell a house. I moved back up to Idaho. I started going to more real estate seminars, and then I just started implementing what they were recommending that you do. You make offers at 70% of the after repair value minus your repair cost. If you get a deal like that, you can potentially get hard money, get other people to fund your deal, find a contractor to do the work. And then essentially, you can be your own best client. So that was my goal when I moved back. I knew I didn't want to just be this hardworking, I'm going to work for everybody but myself real estate agent. I really wanted to be the best client possible for myself first. And then anything else that came from that, I eventually wanted a team that I can spill those clients onto. But it wasn't until like 2014 when I bought my first fix and flip with my brother. That one deal we made like $44,000 on. I mean, it was more money than the last 2 years of selling real estate combined. I kind of made that my focus. And then I went to this networking group in Spokane. It was one of the only real estate investor meetups in the area. There was just one in the Spokane market. And this guy was putting on, great guy. I just thought I can maybe do it a little bit better if I started one in Idaho. And I had all this experience under my belt of selling one flip. So at least I had some sort of credibility. My broker at the time, Marie Pickford, kind of encouraged me to just do it. I was kind of hesitant. I was like, hey, there's this other group that does in Spokane. Do you think it'd be a conflict of interest? I was still a skittish little kid, but she encouraged me to just start one. And it was the best thing I ever did. I put it out there to everybody that I knew, all these investors that I've been meeting at these seminars, the title company I work with, the lender I work with. I told everybody, hey, I'm starting this investor meetup the first Thursday of each month at 6:30. Would you come to my first meeting? I had such a hard time getting previous to this, just appointments with people in general, retail buyers, sellers. When I made this introduction to everybody, it just felt like such an easier way to lead generate for me. And I had 44 people show up that night, the very first meeting I put on. My head was just spinning afterwards because I was just like, holy crap, the amount of effort it took me to do that one meeting was nothing compared to if I was to try to get 44 appointments with random buyers or sellers and then ask for their business, while they're trying to pay attention to looking at a house. At the time, doing that first investor meetup, it just seemed like a no-brainer that I should put all my focus on this. So my one thing was to do that meeting once a month, try to get people to come. And it was all about client acquisition and retention. And then out of that, over the years, almost all of my businesses come from that and referrals, and then growing my team as well.
I mean, if we look at it, right, last year, over 38 million in closed volume for 97 units. I would say that's not a bad lead generation source. So did that sort of participation continue after that first meeting?
Believe it or not, yeah. Yeah.
What was the format of the meeting, Nick?
It was, and it still kind of is. We'll have people come in at 6:30, and I'll let people just kind of chit chat for about 15 minutes, and then we'll get started. And I'll stand up, and this is something I want to point out too. If anybody's interested in doing this, I was deathly afraid of talking in public or speaking out loud to people, and this was something I was not comfortable doing at all. But I did the math. It made more sense for me to try to do this once a month than to make 30 phone calls a day. So the format is, people come in, they chit chat, we get started, and I let everybody introduce themselves, and we kind of zigzag down the line. Stand up, introduce yourself, tell everybody why you're here, what you want to get out of this, and what you have to offer. And we'll move on to the next. And that kind of took some pressure off me too, since I didn't have to speak for that next half hour while everybody's taking their time to introduce themselves. One thing I got really good at is just showing the total market overview. So that's something else I do afterwards. I'll show everybody, here's a market update. Here's what's going on in the market. And I'll take the total market overview and I'll show everybody. And I do the same thing. I've been doing it every month for the last 9 years. Here's your kind of medium price point. Here's what a buyer's market looks like. Here's what a seller's market looks like. When I started doing that, we were in kind of a medium, balanced market. And we slowly got into a deep seller's market. And I would explain that every single time. So it kind of gave me a leg up on just understanding monthly and keeping up on the numbers of what's going on with our inventory levels, being able to teach that. So I was building some sort of credibility and trust out there that I knew what I was doing. And that's, for the most part, all I was really talking on. And then I would have a guest speaker come up. Sometimes we didn't have guest speakers, and I would just do a case study on a deal that I've done. And then I'll leave it open for networking for another hour or so. And then that's my opportunity to, cherry pick who I think I should go meet up with. When you're running an event like this, it's pretty easy for people to want to come up and talk to you. They just assume you're an expert, no matter how much experience you actually have. That's what I've been doing for a while. I've got a team now that helps me through it. We offer a lot more resources now. I don't just go over what's going on in the market. I also show people, hey, we got a podcast. We have these tools on our website if you need a deal analyzer. I try not to come off too pushy or make it all about me. It's kind of evolved a little bit over time, but not by much. We pretty much do the same thing over and over again. And about half the people that show up or more have been there before. And then we'll probably get around 10 or so new people every month, and then a lot of regulars. But I love the regulars because we end up doing deals with the regulars.
Mm-hmm.
When you're inviting people to this monthly meetup, how are you inviting people, right? Because you said some people are coming back time after time, they become clients, but then there's new people every time. Are they just hearing it by word of mouth, or are you advertising it in some way? How are you inviting people each Thursday?
At first, it was all me just inviting people nonstop. Over time, I was able to list it on different websites where if anybody's out there trying to look for a group like this or some sort of a real estate seminar or a real estate meetup in the area, they're going to find us. We're the number one on Google for that in this area. We're on the Bigger Pockets podcast for meetups. We're on the meetup website. We're on the REI Club website. So we're listed everywhere. We actually have a super low marketing budget. Our marketing budget consists of buying cookies and giving away the Millionaire Real Estate Investor book every meeting. We kind of bribe that too for a 5-star review on our Google page. Put in a 5-star review and we'll put your name in a hat to win this book. And we've given that book away almost 100 times now. That book is $15. The cookies is another $15. So we spent about $30 a month on marketing, and we were able to run a full functioning large team and service a lot of clients at a very low marketing budget.
Hang tight. We'll be right back.
Support for today's podcast provided by Keller Covered. Keller Covered is your one-stop shop for all your insurance needs. Keller Covered gives you direct access to one of the nation's largest networks of insurance providers. Shop for home, auto, umbrella, renters, cyber, and home warranty quotes from the country's leading carriers in a matter of minutes. Call 512-855-7158 or visit us at kellercovered.com for more information. You launched the Investor Shed podcast, right, as an adjunct to this group. What was the mindset behind going down this path and doing that? I mean, what were you thinking when you decided, hey, I'm going to do this?
I thought that it would be a great way to sit down and chat with people in the market that have been investing for a while, and then have that out there on a platform that people can listen to or watch again and again and again. And they hear my voice over and over and over. You're creating marketing that's free, that's out there, that just exists, and you're just duplicating yourself again and again and again. And you're offering value to not just the people that you have on, but to people that listen. It's incredible how such a small little, local podcast can have such a great effect. I do have random people come up to me and tell me that they've been listening to the show and they love it. And it's not highly produced or anything. It started off with just a cell phone and a couple of $25 mics from Amazon. And then we just put it on YouTube and Podbeam. So we made it easily accessible. It was not highly produced. It's a little bit better now. You can sell one house and buy everything you need to create a really nice, kind of podcast studio with all the equipment. It doesn't cost a lot, but it's just another way of me marketing long term. And also, I always learn a hell of a lot when I get these guests on. Like when you can get an attorney for an hour, just ask them any questions you want for free, and they're happy to be there and they appreciate what you've done for them. I think it's just the ultimate hack to just get information from people. And it's just an existing nonstop piece of marketing that's out there that's free.
Well, I loved how you shared with me prior to the podcast that your microphone that you have there was a gift from a client because they didn't like your previous microphone, right?
That's Ryan Jones. Yeah, he bought a house from me about a year ago, and he got me this closing kit a few months later because he started listening to the show, really enjoyed it. So thanks, Ryan Jones. You're awesome. This mic is actually really nice.
Tell us about what's happened with your own purchasing of investment property and your wealth building journey, right? Like, as this is part of your expertise and how you generate business on the sales side for your team, what's that done for you? And give us a little insight into your portfolio or however you think of that.
Absolutely wonderful things. It's been able to allow me to fulfill my childhood dreams of being a real estate investor and making a shit ton of money. I became a net worth millionaire a few years ago through buying kind of cheap houses, fixing them up and renting them out. And then over time, they appreciated. The mortgage stayed the same. I didn't get really wealthy fixing and flipping homes. I just made some cash that burned really quickly. Buying rentals over time, I was able to, at kind of my peak, I had like 15 rentals and an RV park and a couple of Airbnbs. I had to sell a lot this last couple of years. I made some pretty big mistakes. A couple of years ago, I tried to blow up and get too big and do too many things. I went from doing like 2 to 3 projects a year, which would consist of like a BRRRR. Do you guys know what a BRRRR is? Yeah. Buy, renovate, refinance, repeat. So I was doing that and some fix and flips. I would usually do 2 or 3 a year. 2 or 3 at a time. A couple of years ago, I got into 26 different projects. And these were spec builds, flips, BRRRRs, you name it, just anything that made sense on paper. I was just saying yes to, hired a bunch of people, started a construction company, hired like 10 people to help run that. And it all crashed and burned really hard. So thankfully, I spent the previous 8 years building up a rental portfolio to help me weather through that. By the end of this year, I think I'll have lost $2 million. So pretty substantial, big losses on new construction. Had a builder embezzle a lot of money and going through a lawsuit there. A lot of not fun stuff. I learned that sometimes it's not awesome just to take on everything. And so I've been doing a lot of scaling down this year. Had to sell a large portion of my portfolio. I have 4 houses left. And fortunately, I think I get to keep them. I've got my personal house and 4 rentals. So I'm still doing just fine there, but almost wiped out my net worth. I think I've got around $1 million or so on paper, but I think I had 4 million a couple of years ago. It's been a wild ride of learning, a lot about new construction, a lot about people, a lot about partnerships. I just got to be realistic and go with my gut and just not try to bite off more than I can chew.
Thank you for your transparency on that. I mean, to share that story, right? Obviously an expensive lesson. No doubt you learned a lot. And having been through a cycle before, what do you see now? I mean, from your client's perspective, as you're putting people into investment real estate, what are you seeing on the horizon?
I see opportunity everywhere still. A couple of years ago, I would have just said, buy as much as you can, get into as much debt as you can while it's cheap. Now I'm kind of becoming a little bit more conservative naturally. I have goals of wanting to buy my next investment with cash. I'm not really interested in getting a 7 or 8% interest rate unless the deal made sense, unless I found a great multifamily property that needed like no work. I'm thinking there's plenty of opportunity out there still. I listed a fix and flip, one of my own, on Friday, and it had 16 showings over the weekend. We listed it. It was great property, 2,000 square feet for $350 in Spirit Lake on a half acre. And it's like everybody's wet dream right now because it's way below the medium price point in this area. People can actually somewhat afford it. Had all these people saying that they're going to make offers. My client's been waiting for something like this. And we only got one offer. And we accepted that today. But I think there's a lot of people sitting on the sidelines for whatever reason, just not taking action. That property, 5 or 6 different people said they're sending offers and they just didn't. They said, this is absolutely perfect for my client. It's a perfect price. It's move and ready. It's absolutely perfect. Looks like they're going to pass because they don't want to compete or potentially compete. It's just, I think people that are willing to just take action are going to be just fine. I think those that are really focusing on what is the market going to do, they're probably going to struggle. That's just my personal opinion. I think no matter what, there's going to be real estate transactions and you can get in front of it or you can try to wait it out, I guess. I don't know. What do you guys think? I'd like to hear your opinion.
Well, Chase loves to give predictions, so
I think you're right, Nick. I think that those that are willing to take action but are paying close attention to those deals making sense from day one are going to be just fine, investors for that matter. I think that, folks that are buying a home are going to be just fine, assuming that they can afford it and they're buying it long term. They're not trying to, speculate, because I think real estate's always a great long term investment. But, speculation can get you in big trouble. Those that are taking action in the retail market are going to be those that have a true motivation, right? A life event that's causing them to need to buy or sell more so than anyone who's maybe rate sensitive, as an example, right? If you're just thinking about it and you don't really need to, then maybe now's not the best time for you. But if you're getting a divorce or you're getting married or you're having a kid or your kids are moving out or someone dies, all the things, right? Then, all of a sudden the rates mean nothing to you. You have a true need. And the more we can look to help and serve those people during this time, the better off we'll be.
Yeah. And I also try to think what's the alternative? Are people just going to rent then? Have uncontrollable rent raises that may match what a mortgage is going to be? And if you're an investor, what else are you going to invest in? Is there a better investment out there? Is crypto it?
No, I don't think so.
What's wrong with buying a house still and renting it out, have somebody else pay it off and getting all the tax depreciation? I mean, none of that. I don't think any of that's changing. I think real estate still, as far as the research I've done, I still think it's one of the best investments you can get into. Seems like there's still a lot of demand for it. Even though rates are high, you just got to change your strategy, put more cash down, make the deal make sense.
Well, Nick, Chase and I talk about this, right? Back in 2006, when the market peaked before the Great Recession in 2008, I mean, average sales price was 22% above where it should have been at that time. And yet, how many of us wish we'd bought more houses in 2006? So, yeah, the opportunity's there. There's no doubt about it. And, I was having a conversation one day with Robert Kiyosaki. We were both speaking at an event. He was the keynote. I was like the warm-up act. He made this statement. He said, you know what? The opportunity of a lifetime comes by every day. Most people just don't see it, right? So I love your approach to this, because really what you're doing is you're gaining mastery around this concept of investing. Like you said, interviewing investors and interviewing people who are knowledgeable about it, that's an investment in your own education. You going out and doing it, making money, losing money, making money again, all of that is part of your education. And I just applaud you for that. I think that's outstanding.
Well, thank you. That's nice coming from you, Bruce. Appreciate that.
Wow, that's sincere.
Yeah. But really, though, is there a better investment that I don't know of? Like even with the high rates today, I mean, should we be investing in EXP stock or what?
I think the best thing to invest in for anyone is what they know. And you obviously know real estate so well. And I think Bruce and I could say the same to a certain degree. And debating whether it's the best ever is not as important as understanding that it might be the best for us. That's how I feel.
And for the real estate agents out there, I think it's going to help to just brainwash yourself and just be absolutely sold on real estate no matter what the market's doing, or else you're going to really struggle. I feel like you're then going to relay that in your attitude and actions with your clients. You know, when they ask you, gosh, is it a good time to be buying right now? And then you start hesitating and I don't know. And you just start thinking about what all the other people are saying out there. I mean, you're not really doing a good service for your buyers if you're not sold on it. Either I'm completely delusional or I'm just sold on it. I just still think real estate's a superior investment and a superior move versus renting. You can always get roommates to help with that mortgage, or you can build an ADU or buy a duplex, triplex, fourplex. You know, there are ways to make your housing affordable. But I just think giving up total control and just renting forever is just a bad move.
When you think about the future of your business, your real estate business, what do you get most excited about at this point in your career?
Honestly, the most exciting thing for me is actually putting some focus into the real estate business, because I felt like for the last 6 years or so, I've just been it's been on the back burner. I've had other people run it, and we've just been responding to things, not being that proactive. We barely put any energy into our real estate sales business, honestly. And I've been putting 80% of my focus into personal investments and other things and side businesses and this media company I started and sold. I'm pretty excited now to actually be a realtor again. I mean, if we can do as well as we have been over the last few years, we're barely paying attention to it. I mean, if we can actually focus on it and adapt to the times and really actually send out holiday cards and call our clients, those kind of basic things, instead of just doing what we're used to. What we're used to is just putting on a meeting every month and just cherry picking. If we can actually treat it like a real business and call our clients regularly, it's amazing, I think, what we can do. So I'm focusing on that. I want to hire better talent, find a couple of rockstar agents that want to join our team, also to be an investor. If you're on our real estate team, you have to be an investor. That's one of our requirements. And happy to report everybody on our team has either done, fix and flips, or they have rentals. If you're on our team, you're going to be surrounded by people that are wealth conscious.
Knowing what you know today, if you were to go back and talk to your younger self getting into real estate, what would your advice be?
So there's a lot. I don't think I'd be where I am today without making all the mistakes I've made. Some heavy advice would be just be slow to hire, quick to fire. I think that would save a lot of time and pressure. And don't be so quick to jump into partnerships with people you barely know. And maybe do some background on contractors.
Yeah, well, we have a process for that. We call it career visioning. Anybody you're in that sort of relationship with, you should take them through without a doubt. Well, Nick, this has been an absolute treat for us. Chase and I often talk about how much we learn from the opportunity to talk to people like yourself. And I want to say thank you. There's been some valuable lessons in this conversation today. I do want to say to our listeners, if any of you have referrals for the Coeur d'Alene, North Idaho area, look no further than Nick and his team. Will have his contact information in the show notes. Also, we'll have a link to the Investor Shed podcast. So if you want to bone up on your investment skills, it's a great place to start. Nick, thanks again, man. We appreciate you. This has been awesome.
Yeah, can I say one more thing before we get off?
Absolutely.
I forgot to give out a huge shout out to my business partner, Joe Turner. She took our real estate sales business to the next level. She's the integrator. I'm always like kind of a visionary and I never really finish anything. But when she joined up with me back in 2016, that's when my business became an actual real business and we partnered together. I owe it all to her. She's the one that really been excellent at integrating all the ideas that we have. So,
okay, well, we'll have Joe Turner's contact information in the show.
Thank you, Nick. It was a pleasure, man. We appreciate you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Now, a brief word from our sponsors. Stick around.
Welcome to KW Operations Community, an innovative platform designed to empower administrative staff and teams of all sizes. We believe in unlocking the immense potential of our unsung heroes, your secret weapon, the administrative support. Too often, their careers have been capped, but not anymore. At KW Operations Community, we provide the tools to boost their professional growth through live trainings, coaching, and masterminds. Our extensive resources library is packed with templates, playbooks, and efficient systems for immediate implementation. This is not about pushing papers, it's about stepping into their strength zone. So let's break the mold together and help our support roles rise to their highest level. Join us at KW Operations Community today by visiting communities.kw.com.
Boy, Chase, I love the variety of conversations we get to have on The Real Look. It was an outstanding conversation with Nick, particularly around investment. And, our audience are typically realtors. And I love that we have this conversation around investing and wealth building. I really appreciated Nick's transparency in that conversation. It was awesome.
Yeah, he shared some of the highs and some of the lows, and you can tell that he's just a resilient guy, right? All the way from selling houses on a scooter in a rainstorm because he didn't have a car to, some challenging years, given kind of some rapid growth that he was pursuing and some of the things that didn't go right in the last few years. And yet he still has a net worth that's well above the majority of realtors in the industry because he still owns investment property. He's been pursuing that for a long time. So just kind of a plug there for the value and the importance of doing that in the industry. I was just really taken, Bruce, by the level of resiliency that Nick seems to have. And, he talked about just hustling and when he first got in the business and taking all the crap leads from other agents, or at least that's what they thought they were. And he was willing to work them and then put deals together. Pretty soon he became known as the guy. So he certainly hustled because he had no other option. But he said one other thing that went along with the hustle, and that was just that he just did what he was told. And I think that's such great advice because, there's great models and systems. So if you're around the right people and the right models and systems, you don't need to think about any of that. You just need to do what they're telling you to do because it will work. And that's not always easy for entrepreneurs to do because they like to be creative. And yet he hustled, did what he was told. He found immediate success. 14 homes in your first year, regardless of price point, is not a small number.
No, not at all. And people have lived before you, right? Like you said, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. The wheel's been invented. And I love the fact that, we get to share in these conversations so many different ways of doing this. And I loved when he shared how he structures his investor group and his investor meeting every month. The idea that for the first half hour, everybody's standing up, stating their name, why they're there, what they're looking for, and what they get to bring to the table. Oh my gosh, I'm thinking to myself, you got 40 people who are sharing that with you? That's outstanding.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And the cool thing is, just a plug to our KW listeners, we actually have in KW Connect a investment seminar. It's an investment seminar in a box, right? It's PowerPoint, it's handouts, it's all of those things based on the Millionaire Real Estate Investors. So, if you wanted to go do something like this, it's a paint by numbers. That's literally what it is.
It is. And I want to make sure our listeners don't miss the fact that Nick's been hosting one of these the first Thursday of the month for 9 years. So there's an element of keeping it simple. He said basically the format's the same as when he started, but he's been doing it every month for 9 years. Just another common theme that we find with top producers is that they find something to do well. They don't overthink how to do it. And then they just do it over and over and over and over again. That's important. He also gets the opportunity during those meetings to establish himself as a local economist of choice, right? A local expert.
Absolutely. Yep.
He uses the TMO report, Total Market Overview, as we know it. And he uses the MREI, again, He didn't have to write a book, even though he sounds like he may at some point. He can use one that he already knows is valuable and use that as a giveaway. And now he's kind of rolled that into this idea of, starting a podcast, getting free marketing and putting content out there that he's truly an expert in. A testament again to the value of being the expert of choice for those that you look to serve.
Well, and, I don't know if you noticed, Chase, but he had the MREA sitting on the shelf behind him, right, as we were talking to him. And I appreciate it. I hadn't thought about it, but the TMO, right, the Total Market Overview, was a tool I developed about 28 years ago. When I was new to the market, how could I become an expert in it and sound like I knew what I was talking about? And you can tell him simply doing that, he is really knowledgeable about the changes in the market. Again, we really didn't necessarily even talk about his real estate business very much, right? Talked about him getting into it. But really, I want our listeners to hear, and I agreed with everything that Nick said. He is passionate about real estate as an investment vehicle for building wealth. And I'm hoping our listeners hear that, because we absolutely, you and I, believe wholeheartedly that, for us, it's the vehicle of choice.
100%. And he said it, Bruce. If you're not a believer in or an evangelist in the thing that you're selling professionally, then you should find something else to sell. That's a more direct way of saying it. And he's right about the fact, I believe, that the realtors that are swayed by what they're hearing in the news and start to question whether it's a good time to buy or sell real estate, they are going to struggle without a doubt, because it's always a great time for the right situation and the right client. So your job is not to decide whether it's a good time or not. It's to go make sure that you find clients that need to buy and sell real estate, and you operate as a professional guide for them, which again, Nick also shared. That's a big aha. He was getting on the phone when a lot of these people didn't qualify, and he just told them that the next step was, I'm going to have someone call you. And that happened to be a lender. And the aha is that people appreciate being guided in a professional way. If they knew exactly what they needed to do, they would have no need for us, right? Like, we do need to guide and point them and sometimes encourage them into the right direction, given their circumstances. That's not salesy. That's professionalism.
Next week's Northern Lights guests are Juan Mendoza and Ramon Murillo with Keller Williams Greater Seattle in Seattle, Washington. We'll see you next week on The Real Look. This podcast is produced by Marissa Frost. Visit KWNWR.com to access the show notes from today's episode. Head over to Apple, Google, or Spotify, or really any major streaming platform to subscribe, and don't forget to leave us a review. Thanks again for listening to The Real Look.